Replace it with one. There we go. Welcome to the Thursday, September 14th, 2023 meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. The meeting is being held in person and electronically via Zoom. Members of the public who would like to comment on hearings or other matters may do so in person or virtually. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 206-337-9723 or toll-free 877-853-5247. Enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. This information is also available on the published agenda. In the public notices section on the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN. CTN can be found on Xfinity Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and streaming online on YouTube or at a2gov.org/watchctn. We intend to conduct this hybrid meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are technical issues. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Quijano.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Calderon.
Here.
Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
Commissioner Fortner.
Here.
You have a quorum. Remember that since 4 members are present, a 2-2 tie is a denial.
Okay. Okay, we'll go to approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? I'm not seeing any. Do we
There
have?
are not, there are more meeting minutes in Legistar, but let's wait till we get to that to decide if you want to look at more than one set.
Right, and Mia sent those out,
Oh, she did?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
this afternoon.
Okay.
So, and with an updated agenda as well. So,
Oh, they're on there?
yes.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, Mia.
Yes, thank you for that, Mia. It's much appreciated. And so we will be using that agenda, I suppose, as the final published agenda. So thank you very much. And so then without objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Now we'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call in using the information displayed on the meeting agenda and the video feed. City staff will select callers one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. To electronically raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak, please press *9 on your phone. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Do we have anyone? No one's coming up here, and there's,
Nope,
I'm assuming no one on the line. Okay. We will move on then to unfinished business, and seeing as we do not have any, we'll go right into hearings. And I will hand it over to staff for hearing F1 515 South First.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right, 515 South First is a tall and narrow 2-story gable fronter that first appears in Polk City directories in 1894, which is the year of our first Polk City directories. Staff has been told anecdotally that the building began its life much earlier as a grain barn, and that it was the first structure on this block. It was later converted into a residence. And according to a 1987 Ann Arbor news story, this house was connected to the one next to it by an underground tunnel that was discovered. It was abandoned and then rediscovered when the house next door started sinking into the tunnel. It features a full-width front porch with turned posts and spindle work, wide board trim, and 1/1 windows. The L-shaped footprint and 1-story rear addition are from the period of significance. Only a small rear side porch has been altered somewhat from what's on the 1931 Sanborn map. It's on the east side of South First Street, south of West Jefferson and north of West Madison. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct a small addition on top of the rear 1-story wing and add an egress window and well on the rear elevation of the 2-story portion of the house. In addition, a roof structure on the south side elevation that was installed without permits would be removed. All right, so walking around the house, it's taller and narrower than its neighbors, which makes it a little bit more distinctive. This is the south side of the house. This is the white porch roof that's probably been there since it's probably the same one we see on the Sanborns in 1931, though it no longer has posts, it has these supports. This is a fence, and on top of the fence is a roof structure that's attached to the house, and that's the one that was built without permits. Here it is from the other side. So as part of the application, they've agreed to take off this roof because it's not something that qualifies for a certificate of appropriateness, and just leave the fence up. So this is the south side of the house. This is the southeast corner of the house. An addition is proposed to be inset 18 inches and sit on top of this 1-story wing that's from the period of significance. This window would be lost to the addition, but none of the other windows would be impacted. They'll all just be left as they are. Again, the addition would go up here on top of this roof. It has a shed that comes off of the main house roof. The other work on the application is to convert this glass block window into an egress window in a well. There's well specifications given. The window is, well, I'll get to that in a second when I get to my staff report. Here's another shot of the back of the house from the application photos. It's pretty simple, it's pretty straightforward. And this is going all the way around. This is the driveway side on the north side of the house. There is another structure in the backyard. It's on the same lot, but it's a separate dwelling. A couple more application shots of that roof structure that would be coming down. So this is a demo and new basement plan. What we're concerned about here is this window well. And when we go to these are the demo and new work, first and second floor plans. You can see on the footprint of the new addition matches the size of the existing 1-story addition, but it's shifted 18 inches to the north in order to preserve this back corner of the house on the second floor and a piece of this roof structure that I showed you a minute ago so that you can see historically what that corner looked like and use your imagination to figure out that there wasn't previously a second floor there. Here you can see a little bit better shot of it. This is the 1-story, this is the 2-story wall, and the whole thing is just shifted over and sits on top of the existing 1-story. And here's the framing plan, and here's that roof that you would still be able to figure out what it used to look like because it wouldn't be changed on that corner. It's pretty straightforward from the sides. The existing is on the bottom, the proposed is on the top here. No additional window on this side or anything, and just a shed roof. The new north elevation, similarly, there's a window missing from the drawing here, but it's not proposed to be removed, and we've got just one window on this side, a little awning. Here it shows what it looks like with the cantilever at 18 inches. It's sort of a novel way to distinguish this corner by just moving the whole thing over 18 inches rather than just making this shorter, but I guess that's how much room they desired to have inside this little room on the second floor, which would become a closet. And also the egress window is not shown on the rear elevation, though it does, there is a wide enough window there, the glass block that I already showed you, so I'm not super concerned. It certainly wouldn't go any higher than the existing opening. It might have to go deeper. Before I go through the standards, let me point out some things from the staff report. The windows are all Geldwen wood windows. The cladding is wood to match the house. I don't think this is an issue since offsetting the addition in this design is pretty distinguishable all by itself. The red brick chimney is proposed to be removed on the interior, but is not proposed to be removed on the exterior, and it appears on all the drawings. So retaining the chimney is included as a condition of approval in the motion, just for clarity. The well for the egress window is pressure-treated 4x4s with an interior ladder. The interior of the well is a little bit larger than the 36 by 36 inch clear area that's required by code. The window's not dimensioned, but it's a wood Geldwen double hung 1/1 within the existing opening. From the Secretary of Interior standards, the ones that most apply are number 1, which says a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for additions, it's recommended to construct a new addition so there's the least possible loss of historic materials, so that character-defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Also recommended to locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building, limiting its size and scale in relationship to the historic building, and designing new additions in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. It's not recommended to attach a new addition so that the character-defining features of the historic building are obscured, damaged, or destroyed. Not recommended continued is designing a new addition so that its size and scale in relation to the historic building are out of proportion, thus diminishing the historic character. And from the guidelines for all additions from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's not appropriate to introduce any new building, streetscape, or landscape feature that's out of scale or otherwise inappropriate to the district's historic character. Geez, I have a lot of them in here. Sorry about that. It's also appropriate to place new walls in a different plane from the historic structure in a subordinate position to the historic fabric, and to limit the size and scale of the addition in relationship to the historic building so it does not diminish or visually overpower the building or the district. It's not appropriate to design an addition that overpowers or dramatically alters the original building through size or height. Finally, safety codes. It's appropriate to comply with barrier-free and safety codes in a manner that ensures the preservation of character-defining features. I do recommend approval of the addition and egress window. I believe that the work meets the Secretary of Interior standards. There are just a few outstanding questions about the materials, the egress window, things like that. But all in all, I don't think that, I think that working within the information presented, it is an appropriate application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So myself and Commissioner Calderon were on the review committee, so we'll now give the report and recommendation. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I would agree. I mean, from the front side, the new addition is not visible. From the sides as well, from the left and the right. That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I forgot if you mentioned that the existing windows in the window wells were glass block. So that's
Yep.
something to note, that they're not removing anything that's historic from those window wells. I was having kind of a hard time imagining what sort of double-hung window is going to fit in the opening that the glass block is taking up right now. It's sort of wide
Yeah.
relative to the height, but I imagine they will figure that out. And also, it appeared that a double-hung window was going in to that window well, which I was surprised, because usually if it looks like a double-hung, it's one of those in-swinging casements for egress reasons. But I will ask the applicant that. And yeah, I don't have anything else to add. So at this point then, will the applicant please either come forward if you're here, or unmute your microphone and your video, provide your name and address for the record. You have up to 5 minutes, but please let us know, if you want to add anything to the staff report or comment on the review committee report, please.
Hello, my name is Rob Fowler, and I'm the applicant for 515 South First Avenue. So they bought that house for their son when he's going to U of M, and now that he's been through that, they've been using it as they live in Saigon. They've been using it as kind of like their second home, and now they're going to retire and make that their forever home. So that's why we're trying to, bring it up to date with standard, to give them a walk-in closet. They need another bedroom, and we're trying to keep everything on the backside of the house. I don't think anything that we're doing is going to take away from the historic value of the house. And then actually the house behind them, these people also own that, so there won't be any blowback from that work. I think that's about all I got to put in there.
Rob, can you comment on the egress window? Is it going to be a true double-hung window in the egress well?
Yeah, but I can make a true double hung work, and then I will
Okay.
hinge it so it swings in. Still being a wood window. If the council allows me to put a casement window in, that would be great too. But I can make either one work.
Well, you tell us what you want, and really, we're responding to what's in the application here, so.
I would prefer to make a casement work. I would prefer to do a wood casement if allowed to.
Okay, that's noted. And then while I'm asking about windows, just checking, that are the awning windows that are being installed in the addition, are those also the same spec that you show for the double hung window?
Exactly. They will still be the gelled wood inside and out.
All right, and then I just had one other question, and I just want to confirm, can you let me know, why, So the addition is cantilevering to the north over the historic first floor. And I'm just curious, can you give an explanation as to why you need the addition to
The
cantilever over?
homeowner was concerned that the closet wasn't going to be big enough, and we didn't want to cover up anything historic, so we're trying to find a happy medium.
Okay, so what I'm seeing is there's like a door coming into that closet. And is that, okay, so is it just the size of the closet, or is it because that's where, it's hard to tell actually what's the door. Is that a pocket door? Is the pocket door in the bathroom, or is the pocket door in the bedroom? How do you get to the closet? Can you guys tell from the drawings?
Yep, no, it's going to be from the bedroom.
Okay.
There looks like I think it's closing up. Wow, that is hard to tell.
Yeah, okay.
No, I think the pocket door is from the bedroom.
Okay.
There might have been a window in that bathroom that might be
Right, that you're removing. Okay. So then I get it, that's why it needs to cantilever over, or else you wouldn't be able to get in.
Enough room
to
for the
that
pocket
room.
door.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that, because it's a little awkward. And there's more historic material being removed because of the cantilever. So I just really wanted to confirm that it was kind of essential to the design. Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Doesn't sound like it? Okay. Commissioner Quijano, question for the applicant? No. Okay. Yep. All right, so.
Could I make the old tunnel living space if I find it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Encouraged.
It's historic, though, so you have to keep it.
Okay, it'll be all brick.
Great, okay. So now I'd like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 515 South First Street. So this is when you should go *9 on your phone, if you're on your phone right now. I don't see anyone here, and we don't have anyone on the line. So I will close the public comment, and, excuse me, would a commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Fortner, she just beat you to it, yeah.
And I have a question. I was looking at the
Okay.
conditions, and it says something about no existing windows will be removed. But
Yeah.
we are losing one.
That's a good point.
Am I
No
reading it
existing
wrong?
windows or exteriors.
Yeah, I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm just going by what the print shows. I can't swear.
So,
The second,
that-
you know,
no
where the
existing
addition's going on the
windows,
second floor, there's a window.
right, so we need to add that in here, I'm sorry. I want to make sure, since no other windows are being discussed, and some of them aren't shown on the elevations.
Right.
That they don't disappear during construction or something, because they're not
So
on
it's the
there.
other than the window on the second floor where the addition is going. No
Yes.
other windows or doors will be removed or replaced.
Yes.
Correct.
Got it.
Oh, and we're gonna, do we want to get the casement, since that's different than the egress window will be a casement window? Do we need to put that in there?
Yeah, say that a double hung or
different than the-
casement would be allowable.
Okay.
Let's put that right after the chimney condition.
Okay, so 3 conditions.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Shall I
Yes, please.
move?
Please proceed.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 515 South First Street. a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a second-story addition on top of the single-story rear wing on the following conditions: that other than the second-story window where the addition will be placed, no other existing windows or exterior doors are removed or replaced. That the exterior portion of the chimney is not removed, and that the egress window will be a casement window. The work is conditioned as compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 1, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions and building site, and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for additions and safety codes.
Support.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner Quijano. Is there any discussion on the motion?
The point that you had raised about the shifting of the addition, yeah, it is a little odd. I understand and appreciate the effort taken to offset from the existing historic corner. I guess it's just, you normally wouldn't see that then extended over an existing volume, but I guess that's really not in our purview. I mean, it looks odd, as long as it doesn't damage any of the historic construction.
I'd say there's two reasons why it is in our purview.
Okay.
One is because by doing that, now you've removed the fascia board, you've removed the soffit, and you've removed the historic frieze. Do you remove the frieze? Yeah, because the frieze is going up, right? So the frieze is angling back, and this is going straight out. So all of that historic material, and the overhang, so the whole massing is now gone. And then two, I just think if something is awkward, then, this has to be differentiated, which it does on one side, but then it also has to be compatible. And to me, awkwardness can battle against compatibility. So I'm with you, and I do think it is in our purview to discuss. So please feel free and discuss.
Yeah, no, so when you were talking about those components, the side elevation of the,
It's not a hip roof, right? It's not a hip where all those things are flat. It's a shed. So
Yeah.
those things are going up. And since this is extending at the second floor level out,
Yeah.
all of that on one side will be removed. On the other two sides, it'll be remaining.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was my line of questioning
see
with
your
Rob,
point.
was that I really want to make sure you actually need that, because we're losing things
Yeah,
by having it.
by that move.
But I'm keeping the corner.
Yes, you
because
are.
there are two sides, as far as, the side elevation and the rear elevation.
Yep, and that is also critical. That's the standard that says you need to differentiate the new from the old in some way. And so that's why we really like that part in the corner there where it bumps in. So that is definitely appreciated.
Yeah, it's just accessing this whole, the addition.
Yeah, any other comments on what Commissioner Kahano's referring to here? Is it bothering anyone, or are we okay with it?
How would you reconcile? I mean, I can think of one thing, but,
What are you thinking?
well, instead of accessing that addition where it's currently shown, if I'm reading the plan correctly, you would go through the bathroom where the window,
Right.
so. I feel like that kind of straddles the line of our purview, because that gets into.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we're
That's
designing
not us. Yeah.
their addition now, which is definitely out of our purview.
Yeah. I don't know where that was.
Okay, any other comments on any other items in the project here? Okay. Yeah, I'm with you, Commissioner Quijano, that this is, definitely something for discussion, and I feel like it's in that gray area of borderline not applying to the standards, because it seems like there was maybe a way to do it without doing this. But I feel like since it is in the back of the house and it's out of the public right-of-way, that even though I'm
it's
not
inches.
so, what's that?
And it's inches of the full thing.
It's not so egregious, yeah, it's
Right,
just
yeah.
that one little bit there, and it seems to be ticking all the other boxes, so it does just, to me, doesn't seem like quite enough to say that I'm not going to recommend.
Yeah, it's not a primary view or elevation. And, yeah, if that was extending, another foot or two over, that much more loss of material.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
All right, any other comments? Okay, let's go to a vote then. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note you must apply for required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I apologize I couldn't be there. We're out of town for a wedding, so we're trying to get as much stuff done as we can. Try to multitask.
Sounds good. We'll get you next time then.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We will now move on to F2 507 East Kingsley. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report
I will.
whenever you're ready?
Here it comes. Okay. This vernacular Greek Revival house appears in the 1894 city directory as 39 North Street, the home of B. St. James. Its features indicate that it's probably older, perhaps significantly. The house has 4/4 windows, equally spaced windows on the front and side elevations, and the front door has side lights and a transom. The 2/3 width front porch is unusual with heavy square columns, and I said stucco walls. When we got out there, I could see that they are not. It's just sort of vertical beadboard walls. 1899 to 1948 Sanborn maps show a full width front porch. Whether this is the historic front porch or not, we do not know. The Kingsley Inn sign hanging on the front can be seen in photos from the 1970s. That's right here in this photo. It is located on the north side of East Kingsley between North Division and Elizabeth Streets, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to repave the asphalt driveway with concrete and extend it an additional 17 feet. Okay, here we're looking down the existing driveway. It's asphalt, it's all busted up, it's in poor condition. Some recent sidewalk slab replacement work kind of did a number on the front walk here, so this is going to be a new sidewalk slab, front walk slab as well. These bricks have been here since the 70s. They are proposed to be removed and are noted as a planting strip on the plans, the drawings. And if you notice where this white car is off the end of the pavement, which is one of the reasons, which is why they'd like to extend it one more car length. When I looked at aerial photos, every few years it would switch from there's grass here, nope, there's a car here, nope, there's a mud hole here, nope, now we're back to grass again. So over the years it's been used for parking on and off. There's a fence here in the back. This shows up all the way back to 1947 aerials. And the proposal is to extend the concrete to just about the center of this rearmost addition, which is just about where that white car is right now. So where you see that white car is where the additional concrete would go. This is the apron. Don't really have to worry about this. It will be replaced by the city since it was apparently ripped up by the city as part of the sidewalk work. They may make it wider. This is not code width, but we'll have to wait and see about that. So this is the existing asphalt, stops here at the back corner of the two-story part of the house. Proposal is to go farther back. They are leaving this planting strip here, so they're not paving all the way up to the house, which is appreciated. It's going to be pretty narrow, but I think they keep trash cans and stuff back here anyway. And see the brick strip here, it's noted as bricks. And the existing is proposed to be a planting strip also. If they change their mind and wanted to just leave the bricks there, unless you think that that's inappropriate, I think that they could do that. They're not historic, but, but they are proposing to remove them, so. And it would go from asphalt to concrete. The standards that best apply are number 1, which says a property will be used as it was historically or be given a new use that requires a minimal change to its distinctive materials, features, spaces, and spatial relationships. Number 2 says the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. Removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. And number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. From the guidelines for building site, it's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space. And also, this is not recommended, this should actually say, not recommended is removing or radically changing site features which are important in defining the overall historic character of the building, so that as a result, the character is diminished. It's not recommended to introduce new construction onto the building site which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, or texture, or which destroy historic relationships on the site. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for paved areas, it is appropriate on residential properties to retain and maintain existing historic driveways and curb cuts. Asphalt is not a historic paving material in this case, including two-track driveways, which they do not have, and green space between the driveway and the house, which they are maintaining. I think that's about it for the staff report. I really have no grief over extending this. Whether there's 3 cars in the driveway or 2 or 4, I don't think is significant, and it's been used that way for ages. And I do think that the work is compatible, and I appreciate that they're going to go to concrete from asphalt. That'll be a little longer lasting surface. Thank you.
Thank you. So myself and Commissioner Calderon were on the review committee, so we'll give the report now. I'll go first, and I really have nothing to add. I think the staff report really said it all. The driveway's there. You can, because of where that car is parked. The white car was there. You couldn't really see necessarily what was there. It's basically kind of gravelly underneath the car there. You could tell that maybe last year or the year before they had dumped some gravel down there. It felt like a parking spot, and you could really very easily imagine just concrete there. So,
Yeah, I also agree with Jill. First off, the bricks have been replaced before. Those don't seem too historical. Again, the car was also parked outside of the pavement, based off the ridges that are underneath the car. It's been used that way for some time. If this were not to be passed, that extra piece of land would still be used as a driveway.
yeah. Very true. Okay, thank you. So now, would the applicant please unmute your microphone, turn on your video if possible. Are you here? No.
No.
Okay, and provide your name and address for the record. And then please let us know if you have anything to add to the staff report or the review committee report.
No one else is present in the Zoom room.
Okay, so we don't have anyone, so we'll just move on then. Did anyone have any questions for the applicant if the applicant was here? I'd be curious to know. But-
Well, and sort of applicant, but also from the review committee.
Oh, okay.
Was there any, it looked like there were, are those egress windows or just
Yeah,
light windows?
I was just looking at those. I think they're just light wells. They're not
Light wells,
nearly big
okay.
enough to qualify
Yeah, they look pretty
for
shallow.
egress.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get them back.
Okay. That was my only
Sure.
question,
Yeah,
how that would be treated.
right. Yeah,
Maybe they'd pour,
they're gonna pour right up to
Similar-
them probably.
yeah.
Be nice to replace those beat
Yeah,
up.
what is that?
They've been
Half a
driven over
trash can?
100 times. Yeah, it'd be nice to know. It's a good question for the applicant. Too bad
nice
there's no
one to put.
applicant here.
Ooh, sorry. Didn't know I could do that.
Behind the scenes.
After this one.
Any other questions?
You know, a question, I appreciate the gesture to go back to grass in the front.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, let's do the public hearing. So I'd like to open the public hearing for this item, and so that's open. And I'm assuming that if you said there's no one, then we probably don't have anyone for that either. So I will now close the public hearing for this item, 507 East Kingsley. And now I'm wondering if a commissioner would like to make a motion on this application. Commissioner Quijano, please.
Sure. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 507 East Kingsley Street, a contributing property in the Old Fourth Ward Historic District, to repave the asphalt driveway with concrete and extend it an additional 17 feet as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the surrounding resources and meets the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for paved areas and landscape features and the Secretary of the Interior's standards for rehabilitation, in particular standards 1, 2, and 10, and the guidelines for building site.
Second.
Very good. Excuse me. That was moved by Commissioner Quijano and seconded by Commissioner Fortner. Is there any discussion on the motion? Further discussion? Okay. Okay. I think there's no discussion because it seems pretty straightforward here. So let's just go right to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. And get your permits. Okay. Very good. Now we will move on to F3. And F3 is 226 Buena Vista. What's that, a road or a boulevard or?
It's a great name.
Buena Vista.
It's just Buena Vista.
Buena Vista, yeah. I don't know, but okay. Something to think about. And Ms. Thatcher, the staff report, please.
So this is where I
Street.
get to, give you all a big surprise.
Oh, what's the surprise?
I've done some revising that I'm just going to tell you out
Okay.
loud to
That's
my
exciting.
staff recommendation. So this is a lovely 1 3/4 story gable fronter, has front corner returns on the gables, full width front porch with tapered columns. Actually, these look pretty square. Stucco on the first floor, and a triple window in the front gable. So the address, it turns out, doesn't appear in Polk City directories through at least 1945, which suggests the house was moved to the lot sometime after World War II. And just this afternoon, I was able to dig up the information that I needed. So here's the 1947 aerial photo.
There's no house.
These lot lines are off, but this is it, right here. This
Wow.
is
Yeah.
226 Buena Vista. So
Okay.
old building permit archives. In January of 1955, there was a permit issued to move a single-family dwelling from 426 East Washington to 226 Buena Vista. And this is so cool because most of this information, none of this information that I'm looking at except the maps was available when I started here 17 years ago. And these building permits have only been digitized for a couple of years.
Wow.
And the aerial photos have only been available for about 10 years. So you can put together this whole interesting story. This is the house right here at 426 East Washington. Right now, there is a crummy apartment building. I shouldn't say that. There's a small apartment building. It's across the street from the Varsity, which is one of the big new, that takes up the whole corner apartment buildings. But at this time, here's the little house. The one thing that's surprising about this is that here, this really looks like it has a gable dormer, and the house now has a shed dormer. But it's not impossible that they switched that, you know. There are also building permits from 1954 to pour a new foundation at 226 Buena Vista. for this to be moved onto. And if you look at the photos in a minute, it's a modern CMU foundation. There's nothing old-looking about it.
Right.
And this was an auto dealership over here with auto repair. This, I found a really cool picture of. It's a restaurant, but and to try to save time. Okay, so now, because this was moved, it's no longer a contributing structure in the
Okay.
district. I did double-check the National Register criteria, and certain kinds of properties are not usually considered for listing in the National Register, including moved properties. The National Register information, qualifications, have considerations for all of those things that it listed up here. They have a separate sort of, well, except under these circumstances, it might be a contributing structure.
Right.
So if you look up criteria considerations B, it says eligibility for historic associations. A moved property must be demonstrated to be the surviving property most importantly associated with a particular historic event or an important aspect of a historic person's life. There was neither an event nor a person associated
Okay.
with this property that we know of.
So the
Since it-
integrity of the architecture is ruined when you move it, but if there was an event or a person attached to that house, that stays
Yes.
as integral even when you move it.
Yep, yep, yep. There is also language that is exceptions to these exceptions.
Of course.
And that has a little bit of language about architecture.
Okay.
But since this is a lovely but not architecturally significant house, I didn't bother to copy that for you.
Okay.
So let's walk around and look at the house and talk about the work that they want to do, keeping in mind that this is a non-contributing structure.
Yeah.
So the first item is to remove this window, which has weights and pulleys, but that's no longer important information, and put in recessed stucco in the opening. It's also proposed to have a little trim frame reapplied to match what's here now, to memorialize that a window used to be there. Walking around the back of the house, here is a porch that I couldn't really quite figure out. You can see here's the new foundation. It's got, modern glass block windows, modern 1955. But the porch looks a little tacked on. And since the house was moved, that explains that a little bit better. They would remove the porch, put on a larger porch, shift it to the left, infill this door, put a pair of double hungs right here, this will all be on the drawings in a second, and put a pair of French doors over where this awning window is currently. Then in the upstairs, the last bit of work is to replace this window with a slightly larger opening with another awning window. Sorry, one more thing. This side door, which is here, behind this tall grass, is also proposed to be replaced with a similar wood 3-panel door. You can see that the threshold here has significant rot, and there's deterioration of the wooden door also. Just a couple photos of the windows, the porch structure. It's kind of interesting to know when this porch is from, because it'll help me when I'm looking at other porches. It looks old, but it doesn't look really old. And the porch is just set on some CMU. So I just went through that work, and here we have the 4 existing elevations. Most importantly is the rear porch here. Demo plan is to remove that back porch and that back door and that window and side door. Replace them with an 8x12 porch on the back, which the easiest way to look at that, it would have composite Trex decking. The easiest way to look at that is to get up to the elevation drawings. Okay, here's the north elevation, away from the driveway. This is where, it showed up as a gable, but now it's a shed. Though it is slightly unusual for a shed dormer to have the eave returns come out in front of it, so I don't know, that might be a clue. 2 new skylights are proposed on the roof. Here's the slightly larger rear window, and here's the new porch with the new doors and new windows on the back. New side door, new skylights, recessed, infilled window. Really, as a non-contributing structure, this work is all appropriate. I'm a little bit sad about this back door because it's a cool back door. It's got this neat bead trim below the molding, but c'est la vie. Hopefully it will find a second life somewhere else. From the Secretary of Interior standards, I've already read to you number 9 from the guidelines for building site. Let's see. So these are different standards and guidelines than I had in the packet, so it's a little bit off. Not recommended is introducing new construction which is visually incompatible in terms of size, scale, design, materials, color, texture, or which destroys historic relationships on the site. From district or neighborhood setting, it's not recommended to introduce new construction that is visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships. For all new construction from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's not appropriate to introduce a new feature that is visually incompatible or that destroys the patterns of the site or the district. And for entrances and porches, to design and install additional entrances or porches when required for the new use in a manner that preserves the historic character of the buildings. Let's see, not recommended is cutting new entrances on a primary elevation. Appropriate is installing a new porch and entrance on a secondary elevation, which may be appropriate if it does not diminish the character and the design and the materials are compatible with the building and the site. We're mostly worried about the site here. We're worried about the neighbors' houses and that this work is going to be compatible with the district. There's language on residential doors that it's appropriate to replace them with similar doors, that you should replace original doors that are deteriorated beyond repair. And the window design guidelines don't really apply so much now, since we're not worried about the historic character of the property. It's very strange to be talking about a house built at the right time, but somewhere else that no longer has historic integrity per se. So staff does recommend approval of this application as proposed, because I think it meets the design guidelines and standards for non-contributing structures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thatcher. Myself and Commissioner Calderon were on the review committee. Would you give your report, please?
Sure. The side door was a bit run down. Just walking up to it, there's some water damage and parts of the bottom were peeling off. Could be picked at. Walking to the back, the porch itself was also kind of run down. The bottom parts. Anything else? Unfortunately, we weren't able to go up to the back door as the resident was not there at the moment, so I'm not too confident about speaking about that in its condition. I'd say that's about it.
I didn't have my microphone on. Okay, so my report, let's see, the neighborhood was very friendly, I guess, just to back up for a second. The owner wasn't there, and we had several neighbors peeking over the fence, like, what are you guys doing? And Jill was, letting everyone know what we were up to, but it was like really eyes on the street on Buena Vista. We were really impressed.
This is over near Slauson, right? Or no?
Very close to Slauson, yeah.
That was funny.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so that was great.
Yeah.
When you're in the backyard, you feel very secluded. It's a small backyard, but there's a very high fence and there's a lot of foliage, and so in terms of like impacting the neighbors, it's really going to have a very minor impact. And that one neighbor had quite a big bump out, like a kind of a lower wing in the back of their house, and I think the other neighbor had like a minor one too. So having an open porch, it's really just going to blend in with the neighbors. And, I would talk about the historic materials, but since this is a non-contributing structure at this point, I'll save those comments and we'll move on.
Could I add one thing?
Absolutely.
So when proposing a motion, would someone please be sure to state that this is a non-contributing property in the Old West Side, because that will make it official, if it's, if you pass the motion. And you'll have to finesse this a little to you could even just say all the work as proposed if you don't want to be too specific, or you can combine the two proposed motions that I had here, or you can propose whatever you'd like, as always. Thank you.
Okay, whoever, think real hard if you want to be the one to read the motion on this one. Okay. So that's the review committee report. Now we'll go to the applicant, please, if you're here or you are here, please come up and write your name and address for the record. You've got 5 minutes, and just let us know if you have anything to add to what you've heard so far.
My name's Jason Ennis. I'm the architect on the project. My address is 1346 Ravenwood Avenue in Ann Arbor. I don't have a whole lot to add. It was an interesting find that Jill informed me of this afternoon. As far as removing the window, the idea or intent when we still thought it was contributing was to memorialize the window so that if some future resident wanted to put that window back at some point, they could, and they knew where it was. The whole project, that interestingly enough, the occupant is a history teacher at the university. And so, he loves living in these historic homes, but they obviously have their drawbacks in terms of modern day life. The idea behind the project is bringing the kitchen into current modern standards, bringing the bathroom, which is the upstairs window, into current modern standards, but still trying to keep the character of the house overall. Obviously, the door needs to be replaced. The porch is falling apart at the ends, the end grain of the decking, so that needs to be replaced. But along with that, making the structure much more livable in modern day, modern day life. So the idea, intent is to try and bring it into modern day life, but still maintain the character of the structure, and that was what we were trying to do.
Okay. Well, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, we're going to do the public hearing then.
Sure.
So I will open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 226 Buena Vista. Do we have anyone on the line?
Nope.
Okay. There's no one here as well, so I will now close the public hearing. And, okay, so you can probably sit now, and then we might bring you back up in a sec, but for now, we're good. So would any commissioner like to make a motion on this application? Commissioner Fortner, thank you so much.
Okay. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the portion of the application at 226 Buena Vista Street, a non-contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to remove a window on the south elevation of the house, as proposed, and to demolish and replace the rear porch, alter rear door and windows, replace the south side door, and add 2 skylights. This proposed work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. In particular, standards 2, 5, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for windows and entries and porches, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, particularly as they pertain to windows and residential porches.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. That was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Now, just can you let us know what was in that motion? Was that a combine the two into
Yes.
one?
Yes. Although I guess I have a question about whether we should say specifically these guidelines, since the guidelines are for contributing. I mean, we're meeting the standards by applying the non-contributing rules.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Okay.
If you were denying it, I would make you fix it all, but
Did you, well, we haven't voted yet. And you said non-contributing? I was
I did.
listening, but I did, okay. Okay. So now we're going to have some discussion on the motion. So who would like to start? Does anyone have any discussion items? I would like to know does anyone think that this structure is contributing, in fact? Or do we all agree that it is non-contributing? I mean,
It was moved in 55?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that permit it says?
Yeah.
And based on the
No,
evidence
that's-
supplied, you know,
It's sort of fake history, isn't it? It
Yeah,
wasn't
'cause it-
there during the period of significance.
right.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the other contributing structures, they're contributing for a reason, the description. This property wouldn't, or the structure would not necessarily meet.
Right. It seems clear from the standards that we follow that if you do this to a building, even though it was built at a certain time period, even if it was built within your own historic districts, if you move it, the integrity is lost. Okay. So then that sort of makes everything else much easier, I would suppose. We probably would have some pretty good discussion otherwise because of what is being asked, but. Okay, so I will say that I appreciate an owner of any of these houses that we look at doing a renovation and not adding on any square footage at all. I really think that that is commendable, so I'd like to say that. And then I don't have any other comments because this is a non-contributing structure, and I think what we're seeing is so minimal that really we'd be commenting on the site, right? And we've kind of heard like, okay, the site is it's very compatible with the site, with what's going on either side of it and everything, and so. Excuse me. Any other comments?
Maybe this is what you were also speaking to about the site, but just the observation that you provided us with its neighbors and that it's a feature of the district that these projections on the rear, you know, a porch or some other volume is characteristic of the district. And so this is being compatible and appropriate. So that helps as well.
Agreed. Shall we go to a vote? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carried, your application's been approved. Please get your city permits. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Okay. We will move on now. F4, 311 East Liberty.
this two-story Queen Anne was built circa 1890 and moved to this site in 1907, which is during the period of significance. So it is a contributing structure. Features a cut stone foundation, multiple gables, and at least 4 windows that have colorful glass edging in the upper sash. The siding in the front half, the gray half in this photo, is wood, and in the back half of the building is vinyl. The fan detail in one of the front gables, I don't think I have a good picture of it, is not historic, though it is covering up a historic fan detail, which is just sad. Vertical slat screening wrapped the front of the building in the 1970s, and if you look in the staff report, there's a photo of that. It's quite an interesting look. Modern alterations to the storefront that are present today occurred in 1987. Namely, the front was extruded out, so this portion here is new. The site is located on the north side of East Liberty between South Fifth Avenue and South Division, and the applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a barrier-free ramp along the east side, this side of the building, and install a new door in a historic location for that ramp to terminate at. This is the former home on the first floor of the Bead Gallery, which has been closed for a little while. The owners are attempting to allow a coffee shop to move in, and they are required by state law to provide a barrier-free entrance. There are old records of the Building Board of Appeals and the State Board of Appeals for providing this access. The long and short of it is, by law, they need to provide either a ramp or a lift to get into the building. The ramp is proposed to go along the side here, starting right about here at the corner of this display window, and it would go straight to the back, just beyond the bump out that I'll show you in a sec. Originally, about a month or two ago, the project architect, Carl Huter, proposed a different ramp that would start over here somewhere, and it would wrap around the building and then go all the way around, and there would be an entrance at the back door. Unfortunately, I gave them a staff approval for it because it was behind the building, and there are certain things that I can do with barrier-free ramps as staff, but it didn't meet building code requirements, so they had to go back to the drawing board. This is a door to a third-floor apartment. That's the only thing it leads to. So now the proposal is to put a metal ramp here alongside the side of the house. They're really, the cut stone foundation is definitely a character-defining feature of the house. Up here, there's a sash with some leaded glass in it. There's a large window here in this bump out, but it's not a historic window. But beneath that window, it's just wall. So the good thing about this application is at least they're not obscuring any more than just the cut stone foundation in terms of character-defining features of the house. This little window, that's the only one on this side, and it's not this window, but just to the right of it. You can't see it in this photo. So here's a site plan. This is the front of the building. This is that corner display window. Here's the ramp. It goes up, it goes up, it goes up. There's a landing here, which is required by law after a certain run of ramp, and it goes up a little more, and then there's another landing. So the proposal is to add a door right here, just behind this bump. It's not really a bump out, it's just a cross gable, but for lack of a better term. And the application states that this is in a historic opening. We weren't provided with any evidence of that, which is unusual. And unfortunately, the project architect is off the grid right now and has not joined us, or cannot join us for this meeting, and I don't see anyone from the owner representing it. So I don't think we can just assume that it really was a historic opening, but it's not a bad place for a new opening because it is pretty well hidden behind here. You can see also that the current steps that go up to this back door would be swung around so that they would be just a straight set of stairs down to the driveway, which is fully on the property of the house next door. So none of this work is in is on the neighbor's property. It's a little bit of a shared driveway at this point, but it's now going to be just on the neighbor's property. So here we go, up the ramp, landing, up the ramp, in this new door here. And here you can see these stairs that have swung around, and they've got a nice new place for their trash cans to be stored. Here is a view of the ramp elevation as seen from the side of the house, I guess. And here's a drawing of this elevation of the house with the openings roughed in, so you can see how they relate to each other. There is guardrail enclosure screening that's also, the material is not indicated, though it looks like a vertical slat. And here's the ramp from the street, from the front elevation. And this is an example of a metal ramp. They are not a thing of beauty, they are a thing of function. So the standards, I've already read to you number 1 and number 9 and number 10. So the guidelines for entrances and porches recommend designing and installing additional entrances or porches when required for the new use in a manner that preserves the historic character of the building, limiting such alteration to non-character defining elevations. From the barrier-free accommodations, safety codes, and escapes page of the Ann Arbor Design Guidelines, it's appropriate when required to install barrier-free access ramps that do not alter character-defining features of the building, keeping historic building materials intact, and that if removed in the future, keep the historic building intact. So the thing that this ramp has going for it is that it does keep everything intact, and it's super easy to remove. There would be a new doorway, but I do think that even if that doorway were proposed without a ramp, it would be in an appropriate spot on a non-character defining elevation. So let me check here and see if I missed anything. I'm sure that if you had concerns about the guardrail enclosure screening or the new door, since we don't have materials and design information, that would be a super easy staff approval if you wanted to share your thoughts on that with me and felt it was appropriate in concept, and I could help them figure out how to apply it. I do believe that the work is lacking in visual integrity, but it keeps the historic materials intact. And really, it's this or a lift. The lift would also have to go back here in the back. It would also require a new opening if it were to be put back here. And it would just be, it would be a new structure back there, essentially. And I really think that this is almost less invasive because it's so easy to remove. I don't know that they'll ever be allowed to remove it since it's a commercial building, but it does, I believe, meet the standards and guidelines. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. One moment. Okay. So myself and Commissioner Calderon were on the review committee, so we'll give the staff report now. So I'll go first. So there's a few other like 2-story historic homes on this little stretch of Liberty. It seems like there's maybe 1 or 2 on the south side of the street, and then same thing on the north side. Mm-hmm. And some of them are better kept up than others. It's a little sad because right around, down Division, there's just some incredible examples and really well kept up. For some reason, these aren't, but maybe this is the start of something here. Because some of them are really, quite great examples. This one, however, because of the front addition, you really are looking hard to find character-defining features on this property. Like really kind of bending and looking. So it almost doesn't matter, though, because this project is really about site compatibility, I feel like, because it's all just this ramp. So even if it wasn't contributing, it would still be, how does this ramp look with the district, exactly. So it's sort of beside the point. The alley is kind of a dusty alley. It feels like just wide enough for a 4-foot ramp and a 10-foot drive. It feels like it'll fit, but it feels like it's gonna just barely fit. And I think that it's just an alley to some parking spots. There's like maybe, I don't know, 10 parking spots or something behind. It's not an alley that like connects two streets together. It's a driveway, really, is what it is.
The garbage trucks don't come down there.
I don't know if garbage trucks
They
go
don't.
down there.
They don't. They pull carts out to the street there.
Yep. So, then, I also didn't see any evidence of an existing opening being in that little space there, and I feel like, how could an existing opening be right there and it like kind of smushed right to the edge of where the gable, cross gable returns to the wing? Like in the plan, maybe there was like an opening like near there,
Yeah,
but
thereabouts.
it would be kind of a miracle if it was right there. But I agree with what staff said, where it probably doesn't matter because it's a decent spot for a door anyway. In terms of other things from the site, there is kind of some interesting, you can really see a lot of the foundation, I guess, on the other side of the building. Because you can access the basement level with exterior stairs from that side. So there's kind of some interesting old foundation work on that side of the building. Yeah, I think that's it. Commissioner Calderon, anything to add?
Sure, I don't have too much more to add. I agree again with staff, given limited space for an ADA ramp. It's a shame that it would be covering up the cut stone foundation, but it will be the spot.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so is it true we do not have an applicant here?
We do not.
Okay,
Would any of you be interested in seeing the 1931 Sanborn?
absolutely.
It's not
If you
like,
got it, let's see it.
Take a peek.
it's not super enlightening, but it does show you that. This is it here, 311. The interesting part is that there was a little porch that stuck out, and this little square display window, that's been there in some form.
No, because that's
What
the
year is
setback.
that?
That's not right. Come on.
Is that 39?
I think what
Because
they did is
isn't
they-
the setback, isn't it brought way forward with the addition?
Yeah.
then maybe they just,
Brought
sucked
that-
it out and here too. I had
Yeah,
been
it was
assuming
much
that there was
closer
a.
Well, don't you think when it was originally
Porch.
built, it was probably a 10-foot setback? And if you look at it now, it's right at the front
It is.
property line?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this was the back door that they were trying to go around to, but there wasn't room. This doesn't show a door here, and any sort of a porch, but
Okay. And somehow the property line has moved, right? Where the property line there is showing that they couldn't build a 4-foot, well, maybe it just okay, maybe it hasn't moved, and that's
No.
just 4 feet that we're seeing there from like the,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little more than 4 feet from
right,
here.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Very good.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we would ask the applicant to join us, but we don't have an applicant, so now, I had some questions, but I guess we'll get to all that at the discussion. And so let's open the public hearing for this item. This is item 311 East Liberty. It's F4. And I'm wondering if we have anyone for public comment.
No one is in the Zoom room.
Okay, no one's approaching here. See a pattern today. Okay, so I will close the public hearing. And I'm wondering if a commissioner would like to make a motion on this application. Commissioner Calderon, please.
Absolutely. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application of 311 East Liberty Street, contributing property in the State Street Historic District, to construct a new barrier-free ramp along the east side of the building and install a new door and a new opening as proposed. The work as compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the house and the surrounding area and meets the Secretary of the Interior standard in rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitation historic buildings. In particular, standards 1, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for the entrances and porches, and the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines for barrier-free accommodations.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Calderon and seconded by Commissioner Quijano. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Could I make one more comment?
Absolutely.
Should have included this in staff comments, but there is a little narrative in the application that states that the new door would be wood, full light, 15 pane French door to let a lot of light in. And the steel ramp would be either powder coated or galvanized. For appearances and longevity, the colorway will be a neutral gray tone to minimize the visual impact, and galvanized metal ages to a soft gray tone. So if you had a strong feeling about whether it should be galvanized or powder coated, you should speak up, otherwise it will be sort of their choice.
Is that, speaking of purview, can we say colors like that when it comes to something like this?
Well, not colors, but, I mean, a powder coated
Powder
finish
coated,
is
they
different than a
could powder coated
galvanized.
pink or something, I guess, right? Yeah, like, because powder
They could
coated,
do that anyway,
you
yeah.
could do a color, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But they
Galvanized
do
would be-
state that it'll be gray,
Yeah.
either way, so,
That's nice.
yeah.
Theoretically, anyone could paint it at that point, right? Yeah.
Yep, yep.
Okay, what else? Is that it? Okay. So, I had some questions for the applicant, and I think that Ms. Thatcher hit the nail right on the head with just what are those slats? You know?
I just saw a note on the floor plan
Yeah.
that called out McNichols panels.
Everything is McNichols.
Oh.
If you look at the
So,
elevation,
but they're
everything says
applying
McNichols this,
metal-
McNichols that. It must be the,
McNichols makes like metal.
yeah. Okay.
Stuff.
Okay.
Sheet, perforations or
Yeah, okay.
metal items.
Yeah,
So that's what I assumed it would be.
but it doesn't look like metal
Right, yeah.
in
Then
the
you look at the
elevation.
drawing,
And then the
it's like slats.
photo is showing something with like a horizontal
Oh, with the that shows the ramp.
balustrade, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the elevation that is drawn just shows the horizontal rails. It doesn't show
Yeah,
any
you're right.
Yeah,
verticals until the,
Yeah, go with the drawings, because the
right.
picture was just,
Yeah, okay, so the
know,
picture is more of like the materiality.
right.
The drawing is the geometry.
Exactly.
Okay.
Do we need to put that in the motion?
So then there's still a question though of what are those slats? Guardrail enclosure screening. While we think of that, I had a question for staff.
Yes.
So you mentioned the lift, and I'm just curious, in the history of the project, like has the owner requested for the lift so how did we get to ramp versus, if there's ramp versus lift, how are we
Yeah.
showing ramp?
The owner desires the ramp.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know exactly why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's expense or if it's ease of use. But that, when I said, hey, why don't you show me a lift, I may be able to staff approve it, the owner said, no, we would really like a ramp here.
Do you know, do you have to put in a ramp if a ramp will fit and only put in a lift if a ramp won't fit? Or is that
I
just a
don't-
recommended, or is there
I don't think
nothing
I've
like
ever
that?
encountered
The building,
scenario.
Okay,
the building official said that they could do either one
Okay.
in his code,
yep, okay, well, that's,
application.
Yeah.
that's a final authority right there, so.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, how would the lift operate? Would a person do it themselves or would someone go outside and lift up the person?
it's like a flat
Push.
platform.
Yeah.
You would roll onto the platform, and then you hit a button. The
Got it.
platform lifts up to the level of the door, and then you roll off of that.
Sure. So you need no one else, just yourself.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah, probably more limited usage, probably. I mean, just one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the ramp is usually preferred over the lift.
Yeah.
I know we had that church that was the old Deek
Yes.
Shant, or what is
Yeah.
that thing called?
Yeah, the Deek Shan't.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the ramp wasn't going to fit, or it was going to fill up like that entire courtyard. And
Yeah.
there, we went with a lift,
Although highly visible.
a very visible lift.
Yeah.
But that was, we were kind of forced into
Limited,
that.
yeah.
Now we've got a very visible ramp, and we're hemming and hawing. Okay.
And it's okay for the ramp to be so close to the motorized vehicle traffic. I'm thinking of the first application tonight where the window wells had been run over in the driveway.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
fairly confident that the plan reviewer will require at least one bollard at the front corner.
There is one, it's not on the
Does that
elevation, but in the
show it?
plans, there's a bollard in the front and a bollard in the back.
Okay.
But yeah, you can just crush it right in the middle. And yeah, it's going to get hit.
Yeah.
I think there was discussion of a wood
It'll
ramp,
protect the
maybe.
building.
And
Yeah, I guess there, yeah.
so a wood ramp would really,
Yeah, it wouldn't last.
wouldn't last very long, but okay. So we have these questions, and the applicant is not here. Are any of these questions like going to hold us up from really moving forward on this? Or is it, like, I would really like to know what that screening is, but what, if he says it's wood, or if he says it's metal, I don't know.
Will it make- yeah,
I
will it
just
make-
want to know what it is, but would it make a difference in how I'm going to vote for this, is I guess, the question on the table, because,
Well, yeah,
The
because it
applicant's
seems
not here.
like the compatibility to the neighborhood is really what it comes down to.
yeah,
Yeah.
And if we don't really know what it looks like,
yeah.
Can we say it's compatible?
It's hard to, like, just because it comes, like, there's no skirting, right? So like, the guard is the guard and the skirt at once, and we're looking at it straight on, but I'm trying to picture it like kind of from the sidewalk. It's a little hard to imagine what that's gonna look like from the sidewalk, and, yeah.
So I'm looking
So-
at the McNichols catalog, and they make every kind of metal
Okay,
thing
It could look like
imaginable.
anything.
They make decking and flooring and structural shapes and things that looks like, honeycomb, and things that looks sort of like a fence, and
yeah,
if I could make a suggestion, you could condition the motion on staff reviewing the fence material with the applicant, and I'll just run it by the officers.
Yeah.
And say, what do you think about this? And if you say, no, I won't approve it, and he'll have to move on to a new material.
Okay.
I think that would help me move forward approving this, because I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And like, why is the skirting the same material as the guard? And I'm sure that Carl could explain it if he was here.
Yeah.
But he's not. So I like that idea of getting that explanation and then reviewing it with the officers. I see a lot of nodding heads. So what are the other questions here, or discussion points? What about the door? Does anyone have an issue with that door, whether or not it's existing? Just, is it in the right spot, and is it okay to put in a new opening there?
Yeah, I'm okay with the location. It's, I assume when you were on site that it's barely visible. It's so tight to. that
Well, it's
corner.
pretty visible because it's a
Well, when you're in-
driveway.
well,
you know?
if you're in the driveway.
Yes,
From the-
yeah, but from the street.
But from the
it's
right
pretty
of
far
way,
back.
like when you're walking along the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Well, I
if you're
guess,
not-
yeah.
If you're not looking out for it, you don't see it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was a historic opening, but I guess we don't know if there's any
At this point, we are
door.
assuming it's just a new opening
Yeah.
rather than a historic opening.
Its location I was not concerned by it.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Okay. All right, so if there's no other comments, we're gonna go to a vote here. Are there any other questions? Okay, so do we have to change the
Oh.
motion though, right?
Yeah, we did have, yeah, we've got to condition the motion.
Yeah, so Commissioner Calderon, you read the motion, correct?
I did.
Yeah, so we want to add some language in there that the motion is conditional on the material of the, what do we want to call that? It's like the guard and the skirt, or?
Design and material of the, yeah. What I
Yeah, do
thought
we
it
want
had.
confirmation on
The
the
garden skirt.
rail design?
Yeah.
I mean, we're assuming one thing, but
Yeah, the gardens.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think what he's drawn is what is,
the drawing
Yeah.
is the proposal.
yeah, yeah, so I think that that's pretty
Okay.
clear from what staff has said. So that's not an issue, but definitely just want to know the material of the guard and the skirt at the landing or something, right?
So would you like to say something like, and install a new door in a new opening on the condition that the material and design of the guard and skirt are approved by staff prior to permitting, as conditioned the work is compatible? Does that work?
Sure.
Okay.
It's very fast.
Yeah, sorry.
Do we need to re-second that, or is everyone good, because no one objected?
Yeah, you okay with that, Jeff?
Everyone's
I
good?
am-
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Good, good. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so I don't think anyone was really excited about seeing this ramp next to this building, but it just seems like it's barrier-free design. We need to provide these services. So it's been done in kind of the least, like, eye-catching way possible or something, in a way, because it's just very simple. The materials we're concerned about, but they're as durable as they could probably be. Let's just go to a vote here. All those in favor, say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Okay, so the motion carries. The application has been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We've got one more hearing, F5. That is 1218 West Huron. Ms. Thatcher, when you're ready, please give the staff report.
All right, one moment, please.
Take your time.
I got disorganized. Okay. 1218 West Huron Street is in the Old West Side Historic District. This is a two-story Queen Anne that first appears in Polk City directories in 1894 as the Wagner home at 126 West Huron Street. Its construction date may be earlier. If you look at it, it's a fairly symmetrical house that I think was probably much older than this, and then Queen Anne, potentially, with a new fancy porch. See how symmetrical the windows are? That's not a characteristic trademark of the Queen Anne style, but, so I think they've sort of dolled it up, as they did with many Queen Annes around this time. The house is a contributing resource in the Old West Side Historic District. We're here today to talk about the garage, which has 2 bays, each with double leaf hinge doors. There are several 6-light fixed windows in the garage, one on each gable, and then some on one of the sides. The siding is wood double lap with wood trim and corner boards. The garage that appears on 1947 aerial photos matches the garage seen on 2022 aerial photos. And I've got that comparison in the staff report if you want to see it. The site is located on the north side of West Huron Street, west of Urbana, and slightly east of the terminus of Crest Avenue. And the applicant is seeking a notice to proceed to demolish a garage on the site and not replace it. The garage is a contributing structure in the Old West Side Historic District. So walking around the garage here, I visited the site twice, and the review committee was there with me on Monday. You can see just by looking at it that things are a little bit askew. The doors need some care, but they are on their hinges, and it's certainly a design that looks like it's pre-1945. The siding's kind of neat because it's very narrow, but it is a double lap, so each board looks like it's two boards. I think we ran into that last month as well. And then there's some flat board trim in the eave. There's a close-up of the doors. We've certainly seen worse than that. The front of the building looks better than the other three sides because it's been more recently painted than the other elevations. Here's a 6 lights fixed sash window that's in the front gable. Walking around the side of the house, this is the east side. You can see that there's a person door and 2 windows on this side. The roof of the structure is collapsed. The property changed hands and pretty recently, I'm not sure exactly when, but probably in the last year is my guess. And shortly after the new owner bought it, the roof caved in, which was very unfortunate. And it's been obviously letting in a lot of water ever since then. You can see here that there's certainly some decay on the trim, especially the siding near the ground that's gotten more wet. And up here, there's just all rotted wood where water's been seeping in probably for a while. This is the west side of the garage. There's a giant grapevine thicket, so I'm sort of, leaning in and trying to get pictures. But the important thing to notice on this side is that at this corner, the building has shifted or the foundation has shifted, one or the other. And the garage is built on a platform. Here you can see it. This is the back of the garage. And this is a ravine that's probably, we estimated at 20 to 25 feet deep, and it's nearly straight down. It's that ravine that goes through the neighborhood back there off of behind Huron and Linwood, I think, and streets like that on the other side. So somebody who built this garage really built up this platform down here, this foundation. There are bricks underneath this concrete in parts. This is a parge coat. I don't know how much of this is poured concrete and how much of this is just bricks with concrete over it. Pretty sure that these are bricks that you can see through here where this concrete is flaking off. And this corner I was pointing out, this is where everything is shifted. I don't know if the building torqued and went to the right or if the foundation is leaning to the left, but there's a problem there. So walking around the back, this is the other rear corner, and you can see where the siding is coming off a little bit here. It's more square, though it appears that it might be hanging a little bit off of the foundation. You'd have to look more closely from the interior to figure that out. I think you can see some brick through here. Inside of the garage, you can see that the roof framing is obviously shot because that's collapsed, but there is sound material inside here. The framing was pretty much intact. It would certainly probably need some sistering to beef it up a little bit. The doors on the inside, I'll get to them in a second. You can see that there are a couple windows here. Sills, it says in the write-up, are deteriorated. I totally believe that. That's probably something that would need to be replaced. Here are the doors on the interior. You can see that it's just wood slabs that they've built the more decorative exterior on top of. which does help for durability. And here's our unfortunate hole in the roof where it's caved in. This is another view of that side elevation. There are a lot of great photos in the packet that were submitted with the application. I'm not going to read everything to you because you've already had time to go over that, but here you can see some bricks. That's a good spot. So I'm not sure why somebody, formed concrete and just pressed it up against the bricks. It's just not a good idea, but that's what somebody did at some point. Here's a very troubling spot near the back corner. Does have lead-based paint, as do nearly all of these structures, so precautions would have to be taken to follow lead-based paint standards when scraping it. It states that there's cracks in some of the wood siding that would definitely have to be selectively replaced with new matching wood siding if it were to be repaired. States that there's rotting on the door frames. The doors would need to be straightened and doors would need to be reworked. The floor is weak, rotted, and patched together. The current floor is not weight-bearing. The floor, frame, and subfloor need to be replaced. So I'm wondering if...
Is that the first floor, like the floor above?
No, this is showing the floor, the first floor, not the loft.
Right.
I'm wondering if it had a wood floor on top of the concrete. Or if something else is going on there. Here's the roof cave-in. You can see the old knob and tube wiring. Windows. Looks like this sash is missing by the stairs. Documentation of the joists and framing. So it's a lot to look at. Framing on most of the windows has rotted and is in need of replacing. All right, so since this is a notice to proceed, this is the only way that work can be permitted that's considered inappropriate in a historic district. So 8:416 reads, work within a historic district shall be permitted through the issuance of a notice to proceed by the commission if any of the following conditions prevail and if the proposed work can be demonstrated by a finding of the commission to be necessary to substantially improve or correct any of the following conditions. And the applicants have chosen conditions A and D to apply under. A is that the resource constitutes a hazard to the safety of the public or to the structure's occupants. And D is that retaining the resource is not in the interest of the majority of the community. I'm just going to leave this up here while I find some comments for you. So the massing design and materials of this garage are consistent with garages constructed around the 1920s, and it appears on 1947 city aerial photos. The commission has determined that retaining and maintaining resources from the period of significance for the Old West Side Historic District is appropriate. And since a notice to proceed presumes that the work is inappropriate for the district, the HDC's usual standards and guidelines do not apply. The burden is on the applicant to present documentary evidence of a safety hazard or why the work is necessary to substantially improve or correct a hazard. I'm talking now about subsection A, that the applicant must show that the resource, in this case the garage, is a hazard to the safety of the public or to the structure's occupants. Technically, there's no one occupying the structure, though it could be said that the structure is dangerous for people living on the site because it could collapse potentially at some point, or someone could have been inside when that roof collapsed on them. Let's see, and so that's the first thing to determine, is whether it's a hazard to the safety of the public or the occupants, and that the proposed removal is necessary to substantially improve or correct the hazard. So the staff's conclusion is that the resource does constitute a hazard to the safety of the structure's occupants, in this case, the tenants that live on that lot. The garage itself has no tenants. The public has no access. The garage has been neglected, and proof of the neglect is provided in the submitted photos and narrative. But staff's conclusion is that the proposed demolition work is not necessary to substantially improve or correct a hazard to the safety of the structure's occupants, because it can be made safe by following the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines and the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission design guidelines, and rehabilitate the garage while retaining as many of the historic materials as possible, and substituting or reinforcing with new matching materials in matching dimensions where necessary. And then the application includes an explanation of how the resource constitutes a hazard to the safety of the public or the structure's occupants. It states that the structure has little to no salvageable materials. In its current state, the roof is caved in completely on one side and cracked on the other. The foundation and footing is cracked and decayed on an eroding hill, and much of the wood is rotted and unstable. It is unsafe for tenants to utilize the garage in the current condition, and will need to be demolished completely with minimal, if not no, salvaging of existing material. So moving on to subsection D, under notice to proceed, an applicant must show that retaining the historic character and integrity of the historic resource is not in the interest of the majority of the people of the city of Ann Arbor, and that the proposed work is necessary to substantially improve or correct this. So that is, the HDC must find that the interest of the majority of the community in demolishing the garage outweighs the interest of the majority of the community in preserving the historic character of the garage. So obviously the community's interest in retaining historic resources is strong. That's why we have historic districts. Ann Arbor has demonstrated the interest of the community in retaining this resource by placing it on in a local historic district. Staff believes that the proposed demolition does not outweigh the greater goal of safeguarding the historic character of the site and the surrounding district. Staff concludes that these benefits will not affect the majority of the people of the city of Ann Arbor and are insufficient to outweigh the damage to the Old West Side Historic District caused by the permanent removal of the historic garage. The application states the following reasons why retaining the garage is not in the interest of the majority of the community. We believe in preserving the historical integrity of Ann Arbor. However, the garage is in complete disrepair as it was not maintained by past owners. We are unable to maintain the current structure due to the state that it's in. We have deep concerns regarding the location of the garage with its vicinity of the ravine. Preserving the ravine in its natural state holds historical and aesthetic value, reflecting the way our community has coexisted with nature over the years. The ravine area is delicate, susceptible to erosion and soil instability. The work involved to shore up the hillside would destroy habitat for existing animals that have made home in the trees and burrowed in the hillside alongside it. To shore up the area, 5 trees would need to be removed, and rebuilding would put the land along the hillside at increased risk of landslides and loss of vital nutrients that support the local ecosystem. Removing the trees and stumps is a disruption to the habitat for wildlife species and will further erode the hillside of the ravine, as root systems would need to be removed to not affect a new foundation. We strongly believe that we could demolish the garage in a delicate manner with minimal disruptions to the ecosystem that surrounds it, and that we could do stronger work with preserving the natural area if able to demolish rather than rebuild. It's unfortunate that the property owner did not learn from the previous owner, their real estate agent, or through due diligence that the site is in a local historic district and what that means in terms of code requirements. If this notice to proceed is denied, the owner or applicant must return with an assessment of the garage's historic materials, including but not limited to siding, framing, windows, doors, and trim, and a proposal to repair the garage while retaining as many of these materials as possible. Staff does not believe that demolishing the garage is necessary to substantially improve or correct a hazard to the safety of the structure's occupants, or that the stated benefits of the proposed demolition outweigh the benefits of retaining the historic character of the site in relation to the Old West Side Historic District, and recommends denial of the application. So there are 2 proposed motions. You do not need to read them verbatim, but the first one, let's see, I moved, issue notice to proceed. Are they the same?
I think the first one speaks to condition A, and then,
I'm sorry, you're right. Yes, the first one, thank you.
yep, no,
The first one speaks to condition A, the second one speaks to condition D. So since they applied under two different conditions, you need to have a motion for each. That concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So just a point of order here, do we go through this as if it is a typical hearing with a review? Like, was there a review committee and all
Yep.
those things? Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll just move on ahead then.
I should add that the entire commission was invited to the review committee visit per your bylaws.
Okay. Let's move on. Myself and Commissioner Calderon were on the review committee, and we were both there. And so do you want to give your report?
Sure. First off, the property, it leans towards the ravine, which means when it rains, all the runoff's going to run down to the foundation and down to the ravine. The building itself is on Huron, which is like a 35-mile, pretty busy road. Being how far back the shed is, the garage, you may not see it if you're not looking for it. However, across the street from the garage, almost directly, is another street, and that it's very highly visible from that one street. Right across the street, right across from another side of Huron. Walking around the building, again, the front was fair, the sides, the paneling was in decent condition. Walking inside, obviously, the roof was caving in. Some of the ceiling joists were beginning to break. Most of them were pretty water damaged. Going down below, as we'd said before, there's many parts of the concrete and the footing that were completely separate from the actual footing. And that's it for now. I have questions, but we can do that later.
Very good. Well, it was a very thorough staff report, and I agreed with it. And so I guess it's been mentioned, but yeah, I do think that that one piece of foundation that is, I'd say spalled, but it's like, there's got to be a more extreme word, because it's like the entire wall has come off and separated. I do also think it's from the runoff down the ravine, and it has undermined the footing of that part of the foundation such that that wall had nothing to, that's just my guess, is that there's water running right along that down to the ravine, like Ben said, and I'm just guessing that it doesn't feel like the whole garage has shifted. It really, it's just a guess, but it seems like that little piece has come off. But when some of your foundation wall comes off, it's just a matter of time before it's going to affect the rest of the building. It's unclear if it has yet or not. So then, yeah, like this image on the right, that's probably the biggest tree that is impacted here. And that's quite a tall tree, like that's going up like 40 feet, and it does one of those things where once it clears the roof, it like kind of, swings out into the air. So that tree has kind of grown up and around this. So it's not just the garage that hasn't been maintained, it's also the site around it. There was there was evidence of like garbage back in the ravine and stuff, just like empty bottles and stuff like that. It wasn't horrible, but you could just tell it just hasn't been really taken care of. Much like staff said, I mean, this garage just looks like a lot of other garages that we see in the district. It just has that, that look, especially from the front. There's a lot of examples, like it just has that kind of familiar look to it. I felt like there were certain, so just looking at the cladding, like there were definitely parts where the cladding is just totally rotted beyond repair, but I'd say a lot of it looks like it just really needs a scrape and paint. I mean, I think that most normal people would look at this and say like, this is garbage, put it in the landfill. But from like my historic preservation expertise, I'm looking at it and thinking like, this really isn't that bad. Like I've seen worse, and with the right expertise, this can be restored. But the one tricky thing about this is the ravine.
Yeah.
And it's not nothing. It's a really steep ravine, and you got to deal with that foundation wall right there. So it's not impossible. They built it in the 20s, and it stayed for a long time. It is possible today. You support it, you get rid of the foundation, you build a new foundation up. But it is something. It's really going to be, someone's going to need to know what they're doing in order to restore that little bit there. Okay. All right, so moving on. That was the review committee report, and would the applicant please come forward, state your name and address for the record, thank you, and you've got up to 5 minutes to speak, and just please, what do you have to add to the staff report, the review committee report that you've heard so far?
I'm Karen Weissenen, here on behalf of the owner of 1218 West Huron.
Sorry, did you say Karen?
Karen.
Karen, okay, thank you.
I guess the one thing that I kind of want to emphasize is that that aside from the past owner and current owner not knowing that it was in the historical district, they also, not knowing of any historical significance, didn't see this as an asset that they needed to continue to maintain, with the dangers of the ravine and the area around it and the natural area. Both owners kind of thought, all right, let's not, risk shoring up the area, destroying, and the environmental impact, I guess, is where I'm trying to go. And so that is why it hasn't been maintained. I do think you did a great job explaining kind of the foundation issues. But yeah, I just kind of want to emphasize that, and just the kind of the building materials that are rotted and are salvageable are also mixed with wood and boards that are of different lengths, kind of creating, that are also kind of rotted due to possibly the roof being open to rain. And a lot of those aren't very structurally, there's not a lot of integrity of the structure. But a lot of the foundation work, our concern is deteriorating the structure further by repairing. With that area, it seems like, we're gonna have more floods. There's gonna be a lot more flooding, just due to the slope there, and that's not a great location for a garage over time. And it's also, financially, that's a lot of money to put into a garage. And I know that that's sitting on a hillside that's eroding further. So I guess those are just kind of a few extra comments that I want to make.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, so now we will, well, actually, are there questions for the applicant from the commission?
I have a question.
Great.
Somewhere in these papers, it talks about one of the undertakings of repairing this foundation may include relocating it, and that may be cost burdensome. Do you have any quotes of how much that may cost, or where that opinion's coming from, having to change the foundation and shift it over somewhere else?
I don't think we have quotes for that currently.
Sure. No problem.
I guess that kind of, same kind of question is, if a delicate demolition can be done, could a delicate rehabilitation be done? And, have you looked at all the options of replacing that foundation or fixing that foundation in a way, does it have to have a negative or permanent impact on the ravine? Have you explored options that say that can't be done?
Yeah, come on up, state your name and address, let us know who you are, and please.
Andrea, and I'm from Saline, but I work here in Ann Arbor. So we have had a hard time finding a vendor who would be willing to quote it because of the hillside. We did reach out to 3 or 4 construction companies. None of them were willing to take the project on or even bid it. They looked at that ravine and they said, we want nothing to do with this. So we have not been able to get a quote. So to answer your question, no. I think the concern is less, it's a delicate demo, yes. I think we could do that. But I think the impact over time of keeping it on that hill, it's not going to last. So the hill's going to continue to erode, and we might repair the foundation now if we can, but what will happen in 5-10 years? So
Do we
that's
have
our
any
concern.
documentation on the erosion?
What's that?
Is there any documentation on the erosion?
I guess the only thing that we're considering is we're saying that it didn't used to be falling that far, and now it is. So I guess we're making an assumption that there's been erosion, sure. Yeah.
What do you mean falling that far? I didn't get the feeling
Yeah.
when I was there that the structure had fallen at all.
Our assumption was that it was not that far into the ravine before, that there was more dirt. Did you not?
Okay.
That's fine if you saw something different.
No,
but-
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying the actual dirt, like the ravine itself is
Correct.
eroding, the structure
Correct.
itself hasn't moved.
Correct.
Okay.
So
The
I think
slope is moving away from it.
Yeah.
Right, it's moving away from, the ravine is moving away from the structure.
Got it.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Are there more questions?
I just get I don't know if this is reaching too far, but were the construction companies that you've reached out to?
Yeah.
How, do you know how experienced they are?
Yeah, like we asked Meadowlark to come out. You guys probably know them.
Kind of these
well.
unique
Yeah.
conditions?
Yeah,
Okay,
so companies of that caliber,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
May I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
I was wondering about the floor. It's on the interior, so it doesn't really affect your historic district application, but
Sure.
is it a wood over concrete floor, or
There was
is the
wood.
foundation hollow and it sits on walls,
Mm.
or is it solid concrete with like wood?
You're saying, is there a basement? Or like a crawl space?
No,
Yeah.
I don't believe there's a crawl
Oh, no, there's,
space.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
It-
filled in.
It felt like there was, like wooden boards over.
A slab.
slab?
Yeah, slab.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just checking, thank you.
yeah.
So back to Meadowlark coming out.
Yeah.
Give us some more details about that. What did they say? Why wouldn't they
Yeah.
take the job?
Well, they came for a site visit to look at it and just said, like, they're not set up to do something on a ravine like that. So that they weren't interested in the job, basically. They came out, walked around the property. They said, this is too big of an undertaking. We're not interested.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay, that is shocking. Okay.
So where did
That's-
relocating the footing come from?
We have a handyman who had suggested that. He's like on staff at our company. and he had thought that that could be a possible option? Or was that something Metal Arc had suggested too? No, that was our handyman, yeah.
What's that proposal?
I'm less familiar with that. Can you
What are you talking about?
emphasize what
Ben?
you mean by that?
Sure. In this rebuild structure page, on page 107, one of the sentences is the undertaking involves not only demolishing the existing structure and its foundation, but also relocating it, a task that comes at a significant cost.
Oh. I think the typical way to do it is you shore it up in place, and you kind of like just keep it there, and then you remove the foundation, and then you just rebuild the foundation up to it. Isn't that what typically is done in
Yeah.
historic
Yeah.
renovations?
Hold it
Yeah,
up in
so,
place.
I don't know, maybe that was a creative idea, but that's certainly not the typical way of rebuilding a foundation for one of these. But, yeah, I think moving it would be difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also move it, but, okay.
Yeah.
And then, so, what did the other,
I mean, many of them just didn't want to come.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some just, said that they don't do historical structures like this.
Okay.
Others said, I don't see the reason to fix it.
Sure, okay.
And just, you can come to us later if there, you have anything, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that route.
Yeah.
And we don't feel comfortable quoting it.
What do you mean?
The companies
The companies
didn't.
didn't feel,
Oh, that's what they said to you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I thought you were going to build
You
it
didn't
for a
wanna
second.
quote
Okay,
them.
I get it.
No.
Okay. All right, well, I guess that's interesting information. Do we have any more comments
Well,
here
you
or
meant-
questions?
I don't know
for-
if you intended on this, but thought I heard you say relocating the garage? Did you say
Just
that?
while the foundation was fixed, I thought.
Oh, okay.
That seemed like a creative idea that someone had to move the garage away, fix the foundation, then move it
Put it
back.
Not
And I said, you could move it, but I meant more like,
just as a
technically,
temporary.
you can move a structure.
Okay.
You'll see our last example on Buena Vista, right? They moved it from
Yes,
Washington, an entire house, all the way across town.
Yeah, I read it as you would move the foundation, with the building somewhere else.
Like shifting it
Oh,
on the
just like
site.
rebuild
shifting
it
the slab,
somewhere
yeah.
I
else.
mean, I think it's that putting that much, it's a big financial burden to, put this money into an asset that the owner doesn't actually want to begin with. So I think putting that money and knowing it's on the edge of a hillside, knowing that there's probably further repairs or, maintenance to a garage, I think it was just the idea of moving it to not the edge of the hillside.
I see, yeah. I don't know if we
Right.
could move it or not.
Yes, which didn't seem likely that it would kind of withstand that move.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. All right. More questions or comments while we have the applicants here? Yes.
I'm just trying to understand the timing of everything. So the current owner took ownership in, I think it said March
Yeah.
of this year.
Yeah.
When were these contractors contacted?
Sure.
Kind of the initiative to, how much initiative was there by the owner to restore, repair, make an effort
Sure.
on rehabbing the structure?
Yeah, so the previous owner, I think, like we mentioned, was not aware it was historic. I know he could have found the information, we just did not know that, was planning to demolish the garage. Sold it to a new owner with the understanding that he could choose to demolish it. That was kind of like, just, if you want to tear it down, just tear it down, I'm not going to tear it down. We had a rental inspection a few months ago, and they noted the condition of the garage. And then we said, well, we're planning to tear that down, and then we got in contact with Jill, and that's how the process started.
So, and you said you represent the owner, are you a
We both do, we
property
work at the property
manager?
management company.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have other properties in the district?
Actually, we manage 311 East Liberty.
And you are aware that they're in the district?
We were not aware that property was in the district.
The
no.
other properties, though?
We don't have a lot in the historic district, but now we know to look for that, yes.
Okay. All right.
Good, okay. So I guess, can you put the A and D back up on the screen? Let's just look at the wording there and see if that jogs any more questions for the applicants. Because really what this does come down to, right, is those two claims, I guess you would say, that the applicant are making about the resource.
Yep.
And that's really what we're going to be voting on. So if we could just focus on A, the resource constitutes a hazard to the safety of the public or the structure's occupants. Staff has said that it's probably not an issue with the public because it's on private property, but that, sure, the structure's occupants, technically there's no occupants, but there are people living on the property, and
Yeah, did the rental inspector have anything to say about the safety of the garage?
It's currently in the city, we currently can't pass inspection due to that.
Yeah, we have to have a decision about this to pass the inspection.
so
Because
technically
of this, are there no
there's no one living there then?
No, there is.
There is, you're just in some
Correct.
limbo.
Correct.
We're in
where you
a
can have-
renewal of the inspection.
Yeah,
yes.
it's passed previously.
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, I don't really have any questions there. I feel like I can kind of get my hands on whether or not it's really a hazard. I mean, does anyone have questions
Well, I
specific
think it's
to the
interesting that
hazard?
it's passed previously, and we know that the previous owner did not do much to maintain it, so is the biggest change now, under this current review, the roof caved in, or what?
The
What's
roof
different
is-
from the previous approval?
I would say the foundation looks worse than it did before. To be honest, like you're newer to the company. I had not spent a lot of time looking at the perimeter of the building, so I feel like I can't necessarily speak to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now, so I'm going to just shift a question here, but hang tight. So you've mentioned, Jill, that you do feel that this resource constitutes a hazard to the structure's occupants. You mentioned the people renting and living in the house. But then you said that so this text isn't on the slide in front of us. You said that, or is it? It's up higher up? Okay, so then you're saying that the work could actually just follow the guidelines and then A would be resolved. So
Right.
what's the language for that?
So you have to find that the following conditions prevail and that the proposed work, demolition, can be demonstrated to be necessary to substantially improve or correct the condition.
Okay.
So it's both that,
Okay, so
yep, this is the condition,
yeah.
and they've got to demo it.
Demo's the
To-
only way to fix the
to
condition.
resolve.
Right.
If there's another way to fix the condition, like just restore and repair per the guidelines, then this doesn't hold.
Right.
Okay.
That's staff's opinion.
Okay. Well, I think that, to me, I'm just so surprised that Meadowlark in particular would say that they can't do this, or they didn't want to do it at least, but it sounded like they said, oh, we're not set up.
We weren't
to work.
interested, yeah.
Oh, they weren't interested, okay. Which is still surprising. I mean, I feel like they could work on a ravine, but they weren't interested. So
For whatever, yeah.
I feel strongly that this could be repaired, but it's just, we're hearing that, at least for the people that you called so far, that's, you haven't at least been able to find anyone that could do it. I feel like I don't have more questions on that, though. Does anyone have more questions on that line of thinking there?
No, especially being able to put in that frame of mind that We just kind of clarified with this, the
Okay.
text up above.
Very good. So
Yeah.
then let's move to D. Retaining the resource is not in the interest of the majority of the community, and the only way to resolve that interest would be to demo it. Does anyone see anything there that makes, that sounds correct? Is anyone agreeing with that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that one's harder. That one's difficult. I think it's a difficult hurdle because of really what staff was saying about, it's a contributing structure in the historic district, and the community has put their interest in that.
I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
A counterpoint
Mhm.
is that if you were to survey the neighbors, I am curious if they would care if the structure was torn down or not. So I understand your meta,
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
But I guess more specifically, I would wonder if they would have, think that it is a resource or not.
Yeah, I would wonder that too. I mean, it says the majority of the community,
Sure.
so literally means 51%
Yeah.
of Ann Arborites.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be great if we could vote on it, but we can't. So we just have
Yeah.
to go with,
I
what we
understand.
voted on previously.
I understand.
Yeah, so I would love to know that too. I know that, yeah. So any comments on D there? I mean,
I mean, unless would you engage at least the historic district, the district that property is in, a survey?
Would we be
I mean,
interested in doing that?
It's an old, no,
No,
that's not how it's-
when the majority of the community is the
That is
entire
defined as the city.
population of Ann
Of Ann
Arbor.
Arbor.
Okay,
yeah.
never
And-
mind then.
Yep.
Let's get it on the ballot
Case
for-
law's been pretty clear on that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, no, I'm
Yeah.
happy for the clarification on that.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been through all the text here. I think we've asked you the questions that we
Sure.
have. So I'm going to open the public hearing. You can hang there or you can sit, and we just got to get through the public hearing now. So I'm going to open the public hearing for this item at 1218 West Huron. Do we have anyone on the line?
There are no online attendees.
Okay, and no one's in here. So now I will close the public hearing for this item. And I will ask if any commissioner would like to make a motion here. Commissioner Quijano, please.
Okay, we'll go this.
So we go one by one,
two-part,
I
yeah.
guess?
Yeah, we'll do it that way. I move that the commission issue a notice to proceed for the application at 1218 West Huron Street to demolish a garage that is a contributing structure in the Old West Side Historic District as proposed. The commission finds that the garage constitutes a hazard to the safety of one of the structure's occupants. That's interesting. And that the proposed work is necessary to substantially improve or correct this condition.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Quijano and seconded by Commissioner Calderon. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Okay, so this one is related to A. It's a safety.
Hazard.
It says it constitutes a hazard to the safety of one of the structure's occupants. Is that the right wording, Jill? More or less?
Sounds a little weird, but.
That's what our city attorney
Yeah.
wants in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Because it only takes one.
Yeah, it's just one's enough, okay. We're not saying one and only one, we're just saying one, okay.
Any
And-
one of them is
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
And that the proposed work is necessary, so therefore the demolition is necessary, so, okay. We've already had quite a bit of discussion here with the
Yeah.
applicants. Is there any more comments? I feel like, maybe just to put it out there, to me, this would be very clear if it wasn't on the ravine. The ravine makes this
Complicated.
complicated, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
but not impossible, I feel like.
How
Just
does the issue of
more difficult.
erosion
What's
come
that?
into this? How does the issue of erosion come into it?
Is there site water?
Now, we don't really have
management?
any data on that, but if in fact there is erosion occurring and this building is doomed because the slopes, people are losing their backyard, which I would think somebody would have documented if this is happening, and the building is doomed.
I think that there's erosion next to your building because you have not maintained your gutters and you haven't maintained the slope of the site. I mean, the water was running off the roof when there was a roof, and it was going right, probably the gutters were full. It's just water coming down right next to the structure. If you have swales and if you have gutters and downspouts, and I don't think that it will be eroding.
Okay, so you don't think there's any erosion occurring, not because of the buildings there, but because we're getting more rainwater and because the slope isn't maintained in any, systematic way,
That's my guess.
that it is or it isn't?
No, that the erosion next to the building is because you've
Oh,
got
yeah.
a gable roof and gutters that were full of leaves and just water probably peeling off over the top of the gutters for a decade. And that's going to erode right next to your building, and then your footing's going to be.
But is the slope where there aren't buildings eroding over time to any extent? Are you
we
proposing
have-
that it is?
See documentation. Is there any opportunity for the review committee to look at adjacent properties and if
There-
there's similar?
There are
Conditions.
similarly configured buildings that you can see from there.
Okay.
You can see foundation walls. It seems like it was sort of a thing at one time to build up the back in order to push your garage as far back as possible on your lot. We could also see similar work across the ravine on, the other street. Those were a lot easier to see.
Sure.
Whether or not there was erosion affecting them or not, I couldn't say, but they did exist.
Yeah, and whether it would affect them in 5 years or 100 years.
Well, it's been there for 100 years
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
and it hasn't fallen into the ravine.
I guess I would say to that, okay, so if there is increasing water levels and storms, and that just kind of becomes, like, we all need to, proper water management on the property, right? And addressing that. And some are more difficult than others, of course.
Yeah. With all those things being said, I just feel like reading the motion, the commission finds that the garage is a hazard and that the only way to fix that hazard is through demolition of the garage. I'm just gotten to that point where I'm just not buying that. I think that there's a way to fix this garage and repair the hazard without demolishing it. So any more discussion on this one here? Okay. In that case, all those in favor of the motion, please say yes. All those opposed, please say no.
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 Okay, so the first motion did not pass.
So
Yes?
you do not need to continue with the second motion,
Okay,
Oh,
because you've now denied the application
okay,
for a notice to proceed. Yeah.
okay.
all right.
Well, then.
Okay, so the motion was denied. Now, since this is a notice to proceed, it's different. There's something that is required now of the applicant. Is that correct?
Well, since you've determined that the work's not appropriate as proposed, now the applicants need to come back with a new application for appropriate work.
Okay.
And that will mean quantifying and inventorying what's savable and what's not. It'll probably mean talking to a couple of like foundation specialists, I would recommend. I'm not saying I would recommend to you, I'm recommending that you would talk to a couple foundation specialists. I can give you some names, though, of people that do work regularly in the historic districts. And then reapply to the commission with a new application for restoration of the building. It will probably need to come back to this body. It might be a staff approval. It just depends on the extent of the work. There is. You can appeal to the State Historic Preservation Board. And I can send you a link on how to do that. First, it goes to administrative trial court, either in Detroit or Lansing. They make a ruling that's non-binding, and then it all gets reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Review Board, and they decide what to do with it, whether they can overturn it, they can send it back if there's additional information, or they can approve it.
And they use the same standards that we use?
Exactly the same
Yeah,
standards.
so they don't have different rules, they've got the same rules.
Yeah,
Can we
yeah.
come back and ask for demolition under other standards,
B and D.
The conditions?
You could, if you wanted to. Those are the least likely, I think, of the 4 standards. They're harder to apply. But yes, you could do that.
Thank you very much. Is there a time limit on when they need to come back?
No, not
Okay.
for us.
Okay,
No,
all right.
Okay.
No.
Don't wait too long, though.
Yeah, well, rental housing's on that.
Yeah, okay.
Might fall down.
Any more questions, or we're going to move on? Okay, so that was the last hearing. So now we will go on to new business.
And there is none.
There is no new business. So now we've got to approval of minutes, and there's 3 minutes in your packets to review. And so hopefully you reviewed those. Let's go with June first. Are there any June comments? Maybe July or August? Let's just put them all out there. Any comments? I think I had one.
There was one, I wish I'd written it down.
Take your time, take a look.
Yeah, sorry. Well, it wasn't
Hey.
June, because
Commissioners, I'm going to interrupt you right now. I think I just screwed up. I think we were supposed to vote on the second
Oh.
notice to proceed application.
Okay.
So I'm going to run and see if I can stop Karen and Andrea.
Okay.
And we're going to go back to that.
Okay.
But feel free to continue with the minutes for right now.
Okay.
I'm looking for one thing. It's not huge.
Jill's running down Huron Street right
Oh,
now. All right.
oh, I found it, okay.
Okay. Well, hold that thought.
Yes.
I think we could still vote on it without the applicants here, I'm guessing, right?
Yes. I don't know. Yeah, we didn't have an applicant for it.
Any luck?
Yes.
Okay.
They have declined. They don't feel the need to come back up.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
we do need to act on that second motion. I'm sorry, guys.
Closed it.
That's
This
okay.
came up in an earlier one, but it was different, and I realized that too late. All right.
Okay, so we're going back to hearing F5. And I think that I'll ask someone to read the second motion, right?
Yes.
So, is anyone
I can
interested?
do it.
Okay, Commissioner Quijano.
All right, here we go. All right. I move that the commission issue a notice to proceed for the application at 1218 West Huron Street to demolish a garage that is a contributing structure in the Old West Side Historic District as proposed. The commission finds that the retention of the resource is not in the interest of the majority of the community and that the proposed demolition is necessary to substantially improve or correct this condition.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Quijano, seconded by Commissioner Fortner. Is there any discussion on this motion? I think that
I think this one's more clear-cut.
it's more clear-cut, although impossible to know all the information here because we can't vote on it. We just have to go on what we already know. I remember this one for 415 West Washington. I think there was taxes involved or something. You know, it was like there was some financial stake in the game or something, and it seemed like the entire city was going to have more of a feeling on it or something. For something like this, I don't really know how you would know, right, without
Yeah,
an up and down vote that we can't have. So,
Right.
shall we vote here at least? Okay.
yes, we can.
We can vote on this. Okay, so all those in favor, please say yes. All those opposed, please say no.
No.
The motion does not pass. So the notice to proceed for that motion was also denied.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're all set now.
Great.
Thanks for catching.
I'm glad we got that squared away.
Me too.
So now we do have some comments on the notes. It sounded like Commissioner Quijano had one.
I just had
Which
one
month?
for August.
Okay.
Okay.
For those following along at home, on page 5 of 7, it says moved by Commissioner Ross, seconded by, and then it does not provide
Oh, my.
a name.
Okay.
I guess we'd have to go back to the tape, perhaps, if there's tape.
We will look that up
Or no.
and fill in the blank.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, I also had one for August. Also, well, maybe this is even less impactful, but on the, what page? 6 of 7. So this was the one I was recused, and the vote says 4-0, 4-0, let's say, but really it must have been 3-0.
Right. Oh,
Because
Yeah.
I wasn't there. Does that kind of thing matter? Do we just
Yeah,
want to get
needs
it
to be
right?
recorded correctly.
We
Yeah,
want it to be
We will
right.
change that in the minutes.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the outcome,
The breakdown
but
is
we're
there,
just
yeah.
going to be,
Yeah,
yeah, the
good
breakdown's
to-
right.
Yeah.
Very good, okay. So, as
Were there-
amended, as changed, yes.
I'm sorry, how many members were present last month?
Oh, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4,
It was 4,
5.
5.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so
And I
when
was
he recused, we
recused.
had 4.
Okay, so wasn't the vote correct, 4-0?
Well, no,
No,
because I was
Ben
recused, so it was
wasn't
3
here.
Said
I
there
was
were-
not there.
Yeah,
Ben
Ben was,
wasn't
Oh,
here.
Ben wasn't there,
No.
but Jennifer was.
but Jennifer was.
I see Vice Chair
Oh, wait a
Quijano,
minute.
Secretary Fortner, and Ross.
There were 4 of us total. You're
Yeah.
right, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it. Okay, it's good.
It was 3-0, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Everyone good?
Double checking.
I was with
It's
it, and then
late.
I was confused for a second, and now I
Yeah.
think we're all there. Okay.
Yeah.
So-
You were recused, but you voted.
As amended, we are approving the minutes without objection. Great.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. So now, we're going to move on. Reports from commissioners. Seeing none. We're going to go to assignments. And we've got the review committee next month. We're switching to noon,
To noon.
so.
That is correct.
But, yeah, that was.
And it is on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Monday is
Oh.
Oh, 'cause of
Indigenous
that.
Peoples'
Indigenous
Day,
Peoples' Day.
AKA Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Ugh. Jill, I would have jumped at it because it's been quite a while, but I have another appointment right
Okay.
before that.
Okay,
So.
I can probably make it.
okay.
Yeah, put me
Great.
down.
Thank you.
It's gonna start getting cold.
I forgot if Commissioner Ross likes the 5s. I think she's a
Yeah,
5
I don't think
o'clock.
I can do it.
She doesn't
I
like
can
the
do
noons.
it.
You can do it.
Great,
Oh,
thank you, Kathy. Thank you,
Fantastic.
Kathy and Ben.
Sorry.
I do like the noons, but I just did it. So did you, Ben, but thank you for
Yeah.
doing it back to back. Much
Yeah,
appreciated.
no worries.
My apologies.
I enjoy it.
here.
Okay. Are we good? To move on, we'll go to reports from staff, if there are any. Please report.
I don't have any serious reports. I am meeting with the admins that work on the Historic District Commission stuff, probably next week. And we're going to revamp a little bit our schedules for getting stuff to you guys, notifying applicants more consistently, trying not to get all of this last-minute stuff that has been creeping up on us. So if you ever are inconvenienced by our timelines or have suggestions or just don't like something, feel free to let me know, because, you know, sometimes we're super organized and sometimes we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, and we're trying to be super organized all the time. So any comments are always taken kindly and appreciated. That's all.
Great. Have you heard from that Main Street project that had presented a couple of times?
They're not in a historic district. The Chase Bank?
No.
Oh.
That is an interesting project,
yeah,
but
yeah. Oh, no.
I noticed on the map that the historic district somehow kind of
Yeah,
winds in
that
and around. Yeah.
block's got some.
I'm talking about the.
You're talking about 212, 214
Yes.
South Main.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I have not heard back from them again. I did
Okay.
meet with them on site once after that meeting,
Uh-huh.
but I don't know what their plan. Oh, actually, you know, they are working on new plans, but I haven't seen them.
Okay.
So you may be seeing something from them in October.
Okay.
Which address?
212 and 214.
Right by
South
Liberty,
Main.
just
The
off
main-
of Liberty.
Urban
Where they were going to
Jewelers.
get the entire building and just leave the front and side walls.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Just
On the
plywood
east.
on the first floor right
Yeah.
now.
Sorry.
Board
The
up.
Yeah,
storefronts
east
were
side of the street.
approved and the windows
just
were approved.
Right,
But they're
okay.
forgetting them.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're not
You're
getting
getting all the
Yeah.
highlights.
Yeah.
Okay, one other report from staff.
Great.
We do have two applicants that have been recommended to the mayor and city council for our 2 vacancies on the HDC.
Wow.
Fantastic.
So-
Can you share their names with us?
No, because they haven't put on any agendas yet or anything, or, you know, they've got to be vetted first, I guess.
Okay.
Very good.
But hopefully I'll know more next month.
Do you think they'll join us next month, possibly?
No.
What's the earliest we could have?
I don't know for sure. I'm guessing November.
Wow,
Not
that would be
October.
so excellent.
Yes, it would. It would.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anything else? Excuse me.
Oh, dear.
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay.
You what?
Concerns of commissioners? Anything on your mind,
Um,
commissioners?
Yeah, 2 items come to mind.
Okay.
One, we kind of touched upon a little bit. I know that the Chase Bank property is not in the district, but it's very district adjacent. And, I mean, I guess we don't have any purview, but how, is there any
You can attend the
comment?
public
Yeah,
hearings,
through
you can
public
write
comment.
letters to your city
Okay.
council members, yeah.
As
yeah.
a citizen?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, since the HDC doesn't have any purview, I don't, it wouldn't be like forbidden for the commission to have an opinion and state it and share it with city council.
Right, okay.
Just knowing that it wouldn't be anything that you can
Binding
regulate.
or- yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Do you think we should do something like that?
Well, I would, personally, I would need to read up a bit more
Okay.
on it, but I don't know, what do others think?
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
I agree, I'd have to read up on it too.
So where's on Main's,
From
Main and
outside.
Washington?
Yeah.
Yeah, at Main and Washington where the Chase Bank is now.
Oh, yeah.
It's an old building in a new skin.
Right.
That David Osler, local
That lovely
architect,
brown,
designed.
yeah.
And the old building underneath is 3 or 4 or 5 stories. It's not huge. And the proposal is to put a very tall building in its place, taller than the downtown zoning allows. So it would be a planned unit development. And it's like twice as tall as First National. That would be on the other corner of the block.
And they
Right
would
across the street.
demolish what's there?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. What's there is a little bit tough because it's at least 2 smaller buildings that have through floors that are at different levels, and I think a lot of it doesn't make sense on the interior. Lots of other buildings also don't make sense on the interior, and they help them make sense. But the proposal is to demolish them, put something very large up.
Okay. So it would be appropriate for us to come up with a statement on impact on the view shed of the historic district.
Yes.
And,
We could do that.
yeah. And when the district boundary was established or drawn up, I mean, that building had already been modified and reskinned.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there are a couple other buildings on that block that have modern facades and things, which is why I'm assuming that that block was left out of the district,
Sure. Yeah.
because enough had been altered already. The post office, oh no, that's the next block up. Never mind.
Okay.
What's your other concern?
My other concern is property owners not knowing that they're in the district. We may have touched upon this at a retreat at one time, but is there any way to get it on, I don't know, like.
There are
documents
communities,
that-
there are communities that mail out a postcard every time a property in a historic district changes hands. That's a lot easier to do when you've got 20 historic resources instead of 1,800.
Yeah.
Well,
Plus,
and
if it's
and it's
not
also too late.
Right, yeah, it's after they
fact.
bought it, right? Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
So-
now you're stuck.
Yeah.
I don't know, the information
Yeah.
on a property listing or like the.
Or like
tough.
it's an easement on the title or something, or
Yeah,
a covenant.
Yeah, yes, Ann Arbor
I don't know,
does
does the
not
lawyer-
have
the city
a
lawyer
statement on the
know?
title.
Yeah, because I don't know if this last transaction for that property didn't go through a realtor.
It went
you
through a
did?
Realtor,
Well,
but there was one Realtor
oh,
for
it
the
wasn't
fire.
listed.
It wasn't
listed, but it went
Yeah.
through the realtor. Yeah.
Yeah,
It went through the Realtor.
yeah.
That was, yeah.
So how do people find out then?
The rental inspector told you.
Yeah.
By
yeah.
chance, I guess?
They look at city maps. They have knowledgeable realtors who
Yeah,
check on that
it's
sort
really
of
the
thing.
realtor, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they just call me and ask.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
lots of realtors do that. Most of them look it up themselves, but
Yeah.
sometimes people just say, hey, I saw this online. Is it in the
Well, on the
district?
Old West Side, it's sometimes a selling point in the listing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the Old
I
Fourth
looked at
Ward-
the listing,
Yeah.
or what
Oh,
is
yeah.
left.
In
of
the Old
it.
Fourth Ward, there are sign toppers.
Right.
Yeah.
We've actually had applications before where people say, I didn't know I was in a historic district. This happened once, like 15 years ago. And they showed us a photo of their property, and a sign was in
Right there.
the photo
Yeah.
that said Old Fourth Ward Historic District.
Yeah.
So they backed down. But it really doesn't happen very often that people buy a property,
Well-
completely not knowing that they're in a historic district.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, there's that scenario, but then I feel like there was another scenario within the past few years where, I don't know if it was the window replacement or something, some other work, and they said, oh, we didn't know we were in the district, and yet the property manager had owned, or had been managing that property for quite a long time.
Yeah,
And that was maybe less believable than some other cases.
yeah. A little bit like saying, officer, I didn't know the speed limit was
Right,
35.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
Willful ignorance.
yeah. So, I don't know, that's a concern.
It is a
Yes,
concern.
it is a concern.
It's a good
Yeah.
concern.
I'm actually signed up for a webinar from the National Preservation Alliance on working with realtors
Okay.
in
Okay.
historic districts. And I don't know if they're going to cover this topic, but it's one of those things that, you know, I like to learn more about just in case it's applicable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, keep my thinking cap on.
Oh, good. Very good. All right, well, are there
Thanks.
other concerns here, or should we move along? Okay, are there any communications this month? No?
No.
Well, that brings us to adjournment then at 9:44 on September 14th. Done.
Yay.